Good evening, ladies, and welcome. Welcome, Jessica. Welcome, Erin. Hello, Darcy.
Hello.
Welcome, darling. We've got the Lionsgate portal. It's pretty exciting for us this week.
Yeah, today actually my daughter's Melanie's dad, his birthday is today, so he's a Leo.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm a Leo too.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got it's the sun in Leo. We've got the star Sirius aligning with the Earth. It's an amazing energetic portal. I love it. Like today in Australia, it's 8/8. So it's like infinity
Ooh.
superseded, it's like
Oh, tomorrow's cacao
balance.
meeting is gonna be great.
It's like that cyclical nature of things. So, Erin, do you want to say hello? Do you want to put your camera on and say hello to me?
Sure. Hello. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you, Erin. Where are you joining us from?
So I'm from California, outside San Francisco, and I ordered your book and following your work, definitely believer of Ayurveda, Chinese medicine. Have been doing acupuncture myself and taking some herbs and yeah, just really curious about the Chinese medicine perspective on pregnancy after 40. I'm 43. I have 3 eggs frozen and just more in like a listening educational kind of mode right now, just to kind of learn
Erin,
more.
it's great. Welcome. I mean, it's great that you're aligned with the Ayurveda. It's very similar to the Chinese medicine. In fact, there's so much crossover with it that I find that they're both about homeostasis and balance, and you'll get some great insight from both of those to support you through your IVF cycle. Are you booking one in soon?
Did you say, sorry, what was the question?
Are you booking an IVF cycle in soon? You said you've got 3 frozen embryos.
3 frozen eggs.
Yeah. Okay.
Already done. Yeah. But they're 41 and 42-year-old eggs. So I'm only looking at like childbirth in my 40s. And but my mom's mother had 8 children and she had her last child at 47. And I come from 44-year-old great grandparents. So I'm Irish and British. But like my mom's side of the family, I come from these like really fertile Irish women. So I
Beautiful.
figured maybe it's in my genetics.
I think it's in your genetics. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm testimony that it's possible over 40. That's what I specialize in, working with women over 40. So I'm seeing it
Okay.
in time all the time. But yeah, welcome to the talks. We're doing them every week, so please jump in anytime you want to learn. But I value your questions, so bring your questions with you as well.
Okay, I'm probably going to be camera off if that's okay,
That's
and
totally
mostly in
fine.
listening mode.
Totally fine. Jessica,
Okay.
I just want to say a quick hello to you. Hello, Jess. Hello, my beauty. Do you want to say quick hello? Do you want to unmute? Say hi.
Sorry, I'm actually washing dishes right now, but I'm here.
You're with us in spirit. Keep watching and listening. I think it's a great meditative way to learn this information. So I'll make a start, ladies, and then we'll move to the Q&A as quick as I can. So tonight we're going to be talking about early pregnancy loss and recurrent pregnancy loss. I don't like to use the word miscarriage, partly because I feel the miscarriage, it's kind of like the prefix, the miss. It implies mistake or fault, and inadvertently, I think it just can suggest to the person that's experiencing the loss that they're to blame. And I just don't like the feelings of guilt and shame that come with that word. So I'm going to use early pregnancy loss instead of the word miscarriage. It's just a personal thing. But if we're looking at early pregnancy loss, it's when there's a pregnancy loss before 20 weeks. And it's more common than you realize. And it's estimated about 1 in 8 pregnancies will end in early pregnancy loss. And twice as many early pregnancy losses happen before women even realize they know that they're pregnant. So the impact of early pregnancy loss it's underestimated, and it's not only traumatic, but it's a loss of hopes and dreams for the future. And if we look at, you know, some of the reasons, most first trimester early pregnancy losses occur because of fetal abnormalities. Now, this can be the result of an abnormal sperm. It can be, you know, male factor infertility. It can be abnormal ovum, or an abnormal combination of egg and sperm. So the resulting baby just does not develop properly. In the later stages, this is when it gets a bit more complicated. Pregnancy loss can occur to a plethora of things. I'm going to go through a lot of them, but it can be systemic disease, so diabetes or high blood pressure, otherwise known as hypertension. We've got hormonal irregularities. Maternal age can be a risk factor. And it can also be improper implantation of the fertilized egg in the uterine lining. We've also got the MTHFR gene mutation. Now, we've got so many of these mutations, and there are variants, but you can carry 2 mutations, like the C677T mutation. There's another variant, A1298C, and it's possible that you can carry both mutations. But basically what it means is that there are high levels of homocysteine in the blood, and also low levels of folate. And that's been associated with, you know, recurrent pregnancy loss and late pregnancy complications. So often, you know, what will be prescribed is low-dose aspirin, sometimes medications like Lovenox, which will be used to prevent blood clots. But, you know, it's just making sure that you have your methylated folate in your vitamins and your B vitamins. Other complications in the later stages of pregnancy, you can have uterine abnormalities such as fibroids. Like I had a patient today, and she had a septate uterus, and this is a congenital abnormality in the uterus, and it just creates that separation inside the uterus. So that was removed for her, and she was having recurrent miscarriages, and so we were able to detect that, and so hopefully moving forward, she's going to, you know, be able to impact those embryos. So, you know, it's important that we do the investigations. I'll talk about these as we get further in the talk. But cervical insufficiency, it's also known as an incompetent cervix, can be another risk factor or causative factors. But then other issues, it can be like micronutrient deficiencies. So again, like I've mentioned, the folate, so this is your vitamin B9. It can also be vitamin B12, vitamin D, iron deficiency. You know, you have iron deficiency anemia. This is one of the most common things I see. You know, we'll often look at your iron and your ferritin levels if there are those deficiencies. Like I have a patient at the moment, her ferritin is below 20, and it's been quite low, and she's so depleted. Anyway, we found that that was the issue for her. So, you know, it's detecting what these things are. Sometimes it can be selenium. Iodine's another micronutrient deficiency. So I will get my patients to often do some patch testing, so we can see how your body, is there a deficiency? Is it fading? Is it completely fading? Or, you know, is it like literally staying on for 24 hours? Like we'll do a 24-hour patch test with iodine. But there can be vitamin E deficiency. So that will impact the lining. All right. So could be vitamin E, could be omegas, it could be magnesium deficiency. Like there's all things that we need to think about. And then there can be food intolerances. Now, this is a big one, because how many of us have gut stuff going on? IBS, it's so common. Is there gluten intolerance? Do we need to test for celiac? Is there lactose intolerance? Is there fructose intolerance? You know, is there histamine intolerance or FODMAP intolerance? You know, it could even be like I have an MSG intolerance. You should see me when I have MSG. Oh my gosh, I look like a pufferfish. There can be soy intolerance and even sulfites. Hormonal imbalances, these are some of the other incidences of early pregnancy loss. There can even be like food derived from bacterial infections. So things like Listeria, E. coli, Salmonella, environmental toxicity. So these are your endocrine disruptors. So your BPAs, your Teflon coating. It can be your phthalates found in all your plastics and the pesticides. let's look at glyphosate, or even heavy metals like mercury, cadmium, lead, arsenic, and then mycotoxins. I can't tell you how terrible mold and black mold can be on your fertility, and not only just even your overall health. But then we've got algae toxins, carbon monoxide. There can be like low-grade inflammation in the body. What else? Clotting problems. We'll get into the testing on that. Male factor, like sperm issues. I'm seeing more and more male factor infertility and creating a lot of this. A lot of the time we're blaming ourselves, but it's, the morphology, the motility. I'm seeing a global decline in sperm, and, sperm is declining at about 1% per year. So male factor, it's a really big issue. So often the focus is on the woman. We need to go into this 50-50 because male factor is becoming more predominant in the couples that I'm working with. There can be mood disorders. So this is indirect, but, you could have anxiety or depression or even bipolar or PTSD. We could have chronic or hidden infections that can increase the risk. And then it can be exposure to drugs like alcohol, cigarettes, and other toxins. These are major triggers for early pregnancy loss. And then autoimmune disorders. Now, this is a big banner because, autoimmune is becoming so much more prevalent. I'm seeing nearly every second person has one or sometimes two autoimmune diseases, and they are a cause and contribute to early pregnancy loss. So we've got antiphospholipid syndrome. This is a disorder characterized by the immune system, and it's mistakenly attacking certain proteins in the blood, and it leads to blood clots. Okay, and this is a well-known cause of recurrent miscarriages. We've got systemic lupus, SLE, and lupus is a chronic autoimmune disease, and it can affect various parts of the body, including the skin, the joints, and the organs. And women with the lupus, they have an increased risk of early pregnancy loss, particularly if they also have the antiphospholipid syndrome. So, we've got to rule these things out. Thyroid, autoimmune diseases, we've got Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Now, this condition involves the immune system attacking the thyroid gland, leading to hypothyroidism. Now, thyroid imbalances can contribute to not only just infertility, but early pregnancy loss. We've got Graves' disease, and this causes hypothyroidism, can also affect pregnancy outcomes. Rheumatoid arthritis, it's another autoimmune disorder, and it primarily affects the joints, lots of pain and inflammation, and this poses risks during pregnancy. So I mentioned celiac, but this is also autoimmune. It's triggered by the ingestion of gluten, and it leads to damage of the small intestine. And if it's undiagnosed or if it's poorly managed, then you've got these outcomes, early pregnancy loss. Could be type 1 diabetes. This is another autoimmune disease, occurs when the immune system attacks insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. And so if your blood sugar levels are, they need to be optimal for pregnancy. And it can lead to early pregnancy loss. We've also got Addison's disease. This affects the adrenal glands, and it leads to insufficient production of certain hormones. And then we've got Sjogren's syndrome. So this autoimmune disorder primarily affects the glands of the saliva and the tears, but it can also impact other organ systems in the body. But other issues that we have that can literally be known to contribute to early pregnancy loss, we've got obesity, high caffeine intake, and this is when we're getting, above 300 milligrams a day. And then the use of certain medications like long-term and heavy use of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. It could even just be the ratio of your estrogen and progesterone ratio. That could be out. But as I said, the septate uterus, the uterine malformations, we've got picornuate, we've also got unicornuate. These are uterine malformations, but this is usually detected when we do the testing. So there are several types of early pregnancy loss. So if we look at, what they are, we've got missed early pregnancy loss, and this is where it's usually undetected. We've also got incomplete pregnancy loss. And so this is often, when we need to remove the debris and, or even an inevitable pregnancy loss. Now, this loss is when it's avoided as the cervix dilates and the products of conception is passed away. We've also got complete pregnancy loss and then threatened pregnancy loss. So this is diagnosed when the bleeding from the vagina is usually around 24 weeks of the pregnancy, and it's just that the cervix remains closed, it's undilated. 3 out of 4 early pregnancy losses settle down when this happens, and there's no risk of fetal abnormality, but it's a good indicator when it's threatened is the fetal heartbeat. So we're always looking for that, all right? But if it's undetectable from around week 7, about 2% will lose the pregnancy. And then we've got recurrent. So this is when we're getting multiple, when we're miscarrying successively, one after the other. And the risk goes from 1% to 30% if there are more than 3 in a row. So I've seen, you know, I had one lady, she had like 10 recurrent pregnancy losses in a row, started working with me over a period of, it took us 3 to 6 months, but she was able to birth her baby daughter, and she was testament to the power of Chinese medicine, because she had a lot of internal cold and a lot of coldness. And it was amazing watching the Chinese herbs. We actually worked with her IVF cycles, but we got her pregnant, I think it was on the 3rd round. Amazing. So let's look at some of the treatments to encourage blood flow through the uterus when we have had a loss. So things like turmeric is really powerful. It's anti-inflammatory. Vitamin E, we want to support the lining and build the lining again. So I'll often prescribe vitamin E when there has been early or recurrent pregnancy loss. So I'm usually dosing that about 1000 IU. We can use things like castor oil packs. They're so powerful because, you know, you can use them to just clear old blood, get circulation happening back through the womb. Now, I'm such a fan of castor oil packs. I'm always using them in the follicular phase anyway. But if you have had a loss and things are not moving, and it helps regulate your cycle. But yeah, castor oil packs are amazing. You can make them yourself, or you can get them from queenofthethrones.com. But I like being able to make them yourself because you can literally use one pack. Like, if this is my mouse pad, but literally you can use one pack 30 times, then fold it back up. All right, put it in an old jam jar and leave it in the refrigerator until you're ready to use it again. So you don't have to spend a fortune, but you're just wanting to put it below the belly button, between the belly button and the pubis. And it's amazing for just getting the blood flow to move, moving some of the blood stagnation. Okay. Acupressure, this is powerful. I teach all my patients acupressure. And when we've had a loss, the sacroiliac joints. So on the sacrum, this is the fused part of your spine. So you've got the, you know, if you look at the lumbar and the thoracic and all the way up to the cervix, but all the way down, we've got the tailbone, but there's that fused part we call the sacrum. You can actually put your fingers, you can, if you turn around and look at your buttocks, you can put your finger in the sacral foramina. And what they do, is that really opens up the cervix, and it helps dilate, helps move some of that stagnant blood. Now, I'll often get husbands, if you're sitting on a toilet seat or on a medi ball, you get your partner or husband to put their thumb or knuckles into the sacroiliac joints. Also, the elbow, this is great because you can put this on top of the traps. Now, we all carry tension in our traps. I mean, what person doesn't carry tension in their upper traps? But in Chinese medicine, we have a point there called gallbladder 21. It's got a downward bearing action. It's like, ooh, down we go. We want to send the energy down and out. So gallbladder 21 with those sacral points, and then you can do some of this work at home. Acupuncture, so if you were having acupuncture, we could actually needle those points. And if there was blood stagnation plus cold, we would even put some moxa cones on the ends of needles. And sometimes we would even just use the stick moxa. It looks a little bit like a cigar, but you burn it close to the sacrum and the lower back. And it's really good for moving the blood and moving the qi. So I highly recommend acupuncture, moxibustion, Chinese herbs, because it's just so powerful for encouraging blood flow through the uterus when you've had a loss. All right, femoral massage. This is the reproductive massage. I like this because it's something you can do at home. And it's literally like your carotid artery, your femoral artery. It's on your panty line. So look down, look at the crease of your panties, and that is your femoral artery. And we want to occlude it. We're pushing down on it. So I lean into it, and it's about 30 to 45 seconds. And then we do the other side and we repeat it 3 times. The femoral massage is such a wonderful technique for encouraging that blood circulation. And you can do that. Usually we'll do that in the follicular phase from the last day of your period until ovulation. Then we stop. Now, this applies also with the castor oil packs. All right, we're wanting to do it in that follicular phase after your loss. All right, when you are bleeding, if you do these things while you bleed, it's going to increase bleeding. So we only want to do it when it's safe. There's yoni steaming. We can do that. That's awesome for really moving some of the debris. You know, instead of just doing a D&M, it's just amazing. The yoni steaming is sitting over a warm pot of herbs. Now you can even literally make the herbs. You can get them online. You can get the yoni steaming herbs, but you put them into a pot, bring them to the boil, then let them sit for about 8 minutes, let it cool a little bit, and you're just literally wrapping yourself a blanket around you and sitting over your yoni herbs. Now, I even have some of my patients, they lean over a medi ball and they squat over their bowl of herbs and do their vaginal yoni steaming. There are also some massage techniques, the Arvigo techniques of Maya abdominal massage. I highly recommend those because it helps literally realign your pelvis and your uterus and improves the blood flow to the ovaries and the pelvic bowl. Now, if we're looking at some food and nutrition and some other treatments, I always love to use food as medicine. This is where Chinese medicine is really powerful because it helps tonify and build the energy and blood after there's been a loss. And we really need to do that because it takes about 2 to 3 cycles for us to build the lining again. So I don't recommend going straight into another cycle or trying straight away. I believe in the power of the body. We need time to build the lining, time to grieve the loss, and time to be in your power again. Because after you've had a loss like this, it's really emotionally, it takes its toll on the body. It's not just a physical loss, it's an emotional loss, it's a spiritual loss. So the foods that we will look at in Chinese medicine is a lot of root vegetables. Because if you look at it, the roots, they're the earth, aren't they? And so it's the earth of your body. So what are they? These are your beets, your turnips, your sweet potatoes, even your potatoes. In Chinese medicine, we don't exclude the potatoes. Potatoes are actually quite amazing. And we can use boiled potatoes for resistant starch. Don't throw out the old potato. It's not the enemy. All right, root vegetables are in. But, you know, parsnips, carrots, you know, use nature's garden. We'll often use wild seafood for your omega-3s, so your Atlantic wild salmon. It's so important to use not farmed, because farmed seafood, it tends to have a lot of parasites, and that's what we don't want, infections. All right, so let's go for wild seafood. Seaweed is also very nourishing. It's very mineralizing of the blood. So this could be, you know, dulse flakes. I love dulse because it looks a little bit like bacon, tastes like bacon. And you can actually, you know, I get it in the flakes, but you can actually get it and do like a BLT. Instead of having a bacon, lettuce, tomato, and avocado on a toast, you can use your dulse. And it literally tastes like a BLT. I love it. All right, so check out your seaweeds, but it could be wakame, aromat, you know, the nori in your Japanese, in your rolls. So just even a seaweed salad if you are having some Japanese food. But beans, highly nutritious, fiber, you know, we want the fiber and protein to nourish the lining again. Nettles, quinoa. Quinoa is I love this because quinoa is just, it's so warming of the womb. It's a protein, it's also a seed, but it has that carbohydrate content. And when you're going through a loss, sometimes it's just so easy to, you know, have a cup of quinoa. I usually use the tricolor quinoa, and I'll add in some red onions, some beans, some seaweed. You see some chopped up of these roasted vegetables, and all of a sudden you've got this amazing fertility dish that's helping to warm the womb, nourish you deeply, because your body after a loss, doesn't matter whether it's incomplete, or if it's a recurrent or it's early, your body needs nourishment. So food is where I always get my patients to dive into the food, because that's where you get your power again, because you're in control of that. All right, so protein, it's the building blocks of embryos, all right, and it builds the lining, it supports your hormonal balance. So we want eggs and salmon and tuna, tofu, edamame, like lean meats. So chicken, turkey, beef, fish, but also looking at your lentils, all right, lentils, chickpeas, seitan, nuts, amaranth, Ezekiel bread, what else? Teff, oats. Like all these things are really high in protein, and we want to use even like mycoproteins. It's a type of fungus. But if we even look at your protein-rich vegetables, what are they? So they are your broccoli and your spinach and your asparagus, your artichokes, sweet potatoes, lots of crossover. Brussels sprouts, I like them because they're like little mini cabbages and they're like bliss bombs in my mouth. So Brussels sprouts are in highly like rich in protein, but all your berries, your nectarines, your bananas, and then using vitamin C because it helps you absorb the iron. So, you know, vitamin C rich foods to absorb them. So blackberries and strawberries and bell peppers and broccoli, like you just use vitamin C things, kiwis, to help absorb the iron from the protein. Berries, raw honey, what else? You know, continue. The main thing is to continue with your prenatal. I think that's the most important thing. Your prenatal, some B vitamins. If there is some iron deficiency, we might look at Floridix or, you know, look at some beef liver capsules and some organ meats. Like 100%, I'm getting you a cup of bone broth a day because it's the fertility elixir of life. So bone broth is in because it's really nourishing and it's like a meal unto itself, and you can make it up. This is one thing I get my patients to do is prep lots of bone broth, because you can add it to casseroles, you can add it to soups, and then, you know, it could just be the afternoon. Let's have a cup of bone broth. It's the, you know, the 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock slump. What are we going to do? Let's have some bone broth. But I'll also continue a probiotic, a vitamin D and magnesium. These are the key things that I'll get you straight back on, CoQ10 and essential fatty acids. Sometimes if, you know, if ovulation might be impeded, you know, because it can take a little bit of time for your cycle to rebalance, I might throw in some Vitex. It's your chase tree berry. It has a regulating effect on that hormonal feedback loop, mainly the pituitary gland, but it just kind of helps your cycles come back online again. And I usually dose that at about 400 milligrams daily, but I can go up to 1,000. It just depends on what the case is telling me. But yeah, I love Vitex. I call it jumper leads, and I put the jumper leads with the Vitex on the body. I usually use it for short term, like 3 to 6 months, no more than. Sometimes I have patients, they get left on things. You know, you're wanting to look at your supplement review. I would say every 3 months, do a supplement review, because things change. You know, things change. You don't always need to keep and you get pill fatigue. All right. So remember, when you're recovering from loss, that less is best. All right. So you want just the basics, but you want extra rest. You know, in Chinese medicine, when you rest, all the blood goes into the organs. So we encourage you to have naps, like 20-minute naps, even if you did 2 after a loss. Lots of rest. Yeah, meditation, lower diaphragmatic breathing. And, you know, soups. Like I just make so many nourishing soups for my patients that have gone through loss. And, you know, there's so much that you can do because it's warming of the body, and we need a warm womb for recovery. Now, as I said, I recommend the wait time for trying to conceive again is usually around 2 to 3 normal periods after you've had the early pregnancy loss. But let's look at some fertility blood markers, because investigating pregnancy loss, it's important. We want to know, you know, so first of all, we'd go back and we might do a complete blood count or a full blood examination, otherwise known as. I'd be testing your thyroid and doing a full thyroid panel, and looking even at your thyroid antibodies, your TPO antibodies. We want them under 35, but your antithyroid globulin antibodies, we want them under 20. But, if they are present, they can potentially trigger an early pregnancy loss. And so if you have suffered recurrent losses, this testing should be included in your fertility screening. But looking at, clotting factors, so clotting blood tests, we've got protein S, protein C, antithrombin 3, factor 5 Leiden, lupus anticoagulant, the prothrombin 2, and, we want to, especially when we're having recurrent losses, all right, when there's recurrent pregnancy loss, we want to check for these, because we can really address it with Chinese medicine and even Western medicine. They have their anticoagulants. There's so much we can do. We want to look at things like progesterone, because that's what's essential for maintaining the pregnancy. So I'll often pick up progesterone deficiency if you're doing your BBT charting. But, if you've had a loss, we want to just know. We want a full hormone panel after a loss, a complete blood count, looking at your thyroid, clotting issues. We just want a full investigation. And then, we could look at anti-nuclear antibodies. So I'll often use an anti-inflammatory diet if there are anti-nuclear antibodies, or the autoimmune protocol. It is a bit restrictive, but, sometimes when we do these testings, it might be that we throw you into an AIP protocol for 3 to 6 weeks, but it's short term because it's very restricted. We've got the ENA test. This is the extractable nuclear antigen. It's to detect certain autoimmune diseases. The ENA is usually a follow-up from the ANA test. You see that it's kind of like we do a bit of stepping stones, all right? And it's used to test lupus and the scleroderma and the Sjogren syndrome. We've also got the anti-DNA antibody test, and this is specific usually for systemic lupus. And especially when there is this recurrent pregnancy loss, we want to test for this, because, if you do have this, then there is the, not only the pregnancy loss, but preeclampsia, preterm birth, fetal growth restriction. You want to know what's going on. We've got the anti-cardiolipin antibodies. This is another test that's important in the context of recurrent pregnancy loss, because of the presence of the antibodies can indicate antiphospholipid syndrome. So, we've got protein Z deficiencies have recently been described in women with unexplained early pregnancy loss. And then there's the beta-2 glycoprotein. This is the one antibody test. It's primarily used along with the cardiolipin antibody and the lupus anticoagulant. But you can see there is a lot of testing. I don't want to overwhelm you with the testing, but we do sometimes need to go down these rabbit holes. All right, because we want to make sure that it's not going to be repeated again, and then we can address it. It might be just using some low dose aspirin, or using an anticoagulant, or using some Chinese herbs for moving, clotting and warming. So let me look a little bit with the Chinese medicine. So if I'm looking at it from a Chinese medicine perspective, because remember, I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine perspective, I'm integrating. I always like to utilize East and West, but I am always going to look at you through the lens of Chinese medicine. So I'll often see kidney yang deficiency, and often there is like lower back issues. There might be vaginal bleeding. There might be, coldness. There might, you might see on their BBT chart that it just drops off in the luteal phase. So, we call this like luteal phase defect. But if I'm using Chinese herbs, I will use things like Shao Tai Wan. It's a wonderful formula. It stabilizes, it binds, and it's got extra hold and extra warmth to the womb, and it helps stabilize the kidneys, and it really calms the fetus. So I've had threatened, early pregnancy losses, and use Shao Tai Wan, and I'll actually throw in like Do 20, which is Bakui at the top of the head here. It's an acupuncture point. I'll actually put the needle in and tape it down, or I'll use the micro needles, because it's like literally helping the fetus, and it anchors the fetus and it stabilizes. So I've had some great success using Shao Tai Wan when there's kidney yang deficiency. If there's like blood deficiency and ovulation, I might use Yo Gui Wan. if there is blood stagnation, and this is usually attached with cold, not always, but usually that's what I tend to see in clinical presentation. But I'll use like Dangwei Shaoyasan, and that's when there is like clotting in the period, and they may even have autoimmune early pregnancy loss. But what this formula does, it really invigorates the blood, and it gets rid of the blood stasis. Like, I'm preparing one of my patients at the moment for an IVF cycle. She had a lot of blood stasis. We used Dangwei Shaoyasan, and all of her clotting just went. And then we moved on to a more of a warming formula, but it was amazing because she'd had this history of clotty periods, and we were able to clear it with 1 month of Dangwei Shaoyasan. Other formulas I might use if there's spleen qi, like if you've got spleen qi deficiency, often there might be metorrhagia, like, lots of bleeding, heavy bleeding, because the spleen controls the blood vessels. And so if it can't control the blood vessels, that's when, we get the sunken qi, and then there can be this recurrent early pregnancy loss. So we call this spleen qi sinking. So I will literally use Bujong Ichitan, and it's a lifting formula. It literally lifts you up, and it tonifies the spleen. It helps you control the blood. And I'll often use bladder 17 and spleen 10, but lots of spleen points on the spleen meridian, like spleen 3. It's the earth of the earth down near the big toe. And lastly, if there's a yin deficiency pattern, I might use Bao Jinwan. It's to protect the yin decoction. Now, this formula is designed to nourish yin when there's like deficiency heat. Now, this might be, they might have hot flashes, they might have night sweats, and that restlessness and not sleeping well. So this is amazing formula to calm the nervous system. We call it calming the shun, and this is your spirit, your heart, and it supports the kidneys, and it just helps to nourish and regulate blood, but clear any pathogenic qi. And I'll often use like kidney points, kidney 6, kidney 2, heart 8, if I'm using acupuncture with that. But the beautiful thing is with Chinese medicine, it balances you quickly. So if you're going through early or recurrent losses or threatened losses or even incomplete, Chinese medicine is amazing for sorting out the problem really quickly and getting you back to trying again. Because part of it is like providing that reassurance and knowing that your body can do this. Because often you just feel like you want to give up. There's such a sense of loss and grief. So some of the other strategies I might recommend to my patients is, sometimes they don't want to talk about it. So I'll recommend Reiki, which is hands-on healing. Or, they might want to talk. So we'll get them to do, cognitive behavioral therapy or counseling, holistic counseling. They may even join a pregnancy loss group or forum. But part of it is about acknowledgement. I think we need to, write it or journal it. Even if you talk to one person about it, I think it's about acknowledging your loss and taking the time to mourn and just allowing that space to process the experience. I think as women, when we're in this niche of trying, we just rush straight back in. Oh, I'm going to try again next month. But you really haven't sat in, has your partner experienced sadness and grief? What are they going through? Do you need to take a break? Do you need to have a timeout and just stop trying for a month? Give it a couple of months off. Take your foot off the pedal and then come back into it. Because you might want to step into prayer or meditation, but I want you to consciously thank your body, because I think we beat ourselves up so much after a pregnancy loss that we think it's our fault. And we need to really believe in our body's capacity to heal and thrive again. And it can thrive, but I think the best advice I can give you is to give yourself time to breathe, time to nourish and replenish and fill the well again. So I'll often get my patients to, do some visualizations, some meditations of tuning back into the womb, like connect your heart back to your womb again, doing some lower diaphragmatic breathing. It may even be that we invite the baby back into the womb with some beautiful mudras. This is a Gyan mudra we use in yoga. The hands connect to the heart. So I'll do a meditation with my patients to really anchor the heart and ground them and invite that consciousness back into the womb space. But you can do like some EFT tapping. I teach all of my patients, whether you've had an early pregnancy loss or not, the energetics of the emotional technique, the emotional freedom technique, because it realigns all of your acupuncture meridians, and it's really easy to do. You can use a mantra, you can believe in your body's capacity to create new life again, but the tapping is so powerful. But whether you're honoring your pregnancy loss through ritual or another aspect of recovery, I just think it's really important that you do. You must honor, whether we use ceremony. Ceremony is another way, where we can use singing bowls. And I mean, I have so many patients that have been through so many losses over the years, and they share what they've done. Some of them have created these beautiful altars where they might light a candle for a month and, put a deity, whether it's Kuan Yin, and they make a beautiful altar. But you could write a letter to your baby. All right. So light a candle, have a beautiful meal, have joint counseling, because often we forget that the guys tend to internalize this stuff. They're trying to hold this container for you. And, often their energy can get stuck, when they internalize. But you could even look into crystals, because they have energetics. It's what aligns to you. I think that's part of it. And I think sharing your story with others, don't be in the habit of sharing it with everybody, because when you're sharing it with everybody, you're reliving it over and over and over again. I'm a big fan of sharing it with one sacred person and dive into it. So it's just done once and then it's done. All right. And so that's why I'll often get my patients to write about it and then do a beautiful release with fire and do a fire ceremony. And we breathe it into the fire and we release that. And then what are we wanting to bring back in? So I'm going to leave you with this beautiful little poem. And it says, I honor all that is. I honor my tender heart. I honor all the mothers who have experienced pregnancy loss. I honor all the souls of the babies that have moved on in this life. I honor all the families touched by pregnancy loss. I honor the mystery of life and death. I recognize the beauty in my life. I honor my inner strength that keeps me moving forward. So I'm going to move over to the Q&A now. And if anyone would like to open up and ask me a question or share.
Okay, I have a question. Like always. Okay, so I know you gave me, or you had a big list of things that could go wrong with pregnancy loss. And sometimes I wonder, is the progesterone drop, is that one of the biggest causes?
Yeah.
Would you say, because you're losing that warmth for the womb? And then
yeah, look, if it can be you can see when the progesterone just drops off, midway through the luteal phase, and you're not getting around 11 days, then yes, it can be the progesterone deficiency that is creating, it's not enough abundance of progesterone to support the pregnancy. So yes, you can see that. Yeah.
Okay. And then second question, because I know you also mentioned moxa. So when that warmth drops off, you said that indicates a kidney deficiency, right?
Yeah, kidney yang deficiency. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you aren't seeing that drop off, that's when you could go, all right, can I see that there are signs of kidney yang deficiency? Do I have cold hands and cold feet? Is my lower back cold? And do I have early morning waking urination? I've got to get up and go to the bathroom first thing. There are all these signs of kidney deficiency. It could be just lower back pain, knee pain, but you have a preference for warmth. These are signs of kidney yang deficiency. But on the BBT chart, you just see that, it might be 7 days past ovulation and the temperature will just plummet. And so, yes, we need some more kidney yang support. So moxa would be ideal. That's where you could definitely use your moxibustion, 100%.
Okay. And
or look at supplementing progesterone.
Okay, because so the moxibustion you can use because I've been using them like on the lower extremities, like my ankles,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
underneath my foot. But
Yeah.
like
Mm.
if you're cold, or if your progesterone drops and you're cold,
Mm.
it's okay to use the moxa in other parts of your body, right?
You look.
Okay.
Kidney 1 is it's such a powerful point for warming the womb on the sole of the
Okay.
foot. All right, kidney 1, it's
Okay.
going to warm the womb. It's
Okay.
most distal. You think because it's so far away from the womb that it's not going to do anything. It actually is more powerful. So that's why
Okay.
I often recommend kidney 1 and kidney 7. But we've also got the gate of vitality. I like using the lumbar points, like bladder 23, do 4, bladder 52, like these points. We call it the gate of vitality. It's often difficult to do when you have you're doing the moxa yourself, so that's why
Right.
I'll often use the distal points on the feet. But you can even moxa spleen 6, the 3-leg yin. We don't needle it at that time because we don't want to dilate the cervix, but if you can use the moxa for warming the womb. Yeah.
Okay.
Good question, Darcy.
How long should you do the moxibustion for?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of less is best. You can do it up to about 25 to 30 minutes. I will usually do about 3 to 5 minutes on each point. So if you've got 4 points, 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. I don't find more than 30 minutes. It can give you a headache. Yeah, totally. So it can give you a headache. That's the main thing with moxa. So don't do it late at night. This is what I say. When the sun is high in the sky, tend to do the moxa. As the sun is dropping, we want to wind down the moxa because the moxa makes you very active. It gives you an energy boost. It's so warming and nourishing. So don't be doing it at 10 or 11 at night. Yeah. But yeah, you can do it as a minimum of 10 minutes, Jessica, or you can do it up to half an hour.
Okay. And then you can do it throughout your cycle, right? You don't have to do it just like in your follicular or luteal. You can do it throughout.
You can do it throughout your cycle. I don't use moxa
Okay.
for everybody because not everybody needs it throughout the whole cycle. But if I'm working on your pathology and there I'm seeing kidney yang deficiency and you might have a cold nose or you might have cold hands and cold feet all through your cycle, then you can literally use the moxa throughout the entire cycle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been doing that, so.
Great. Perfect. Well done, Erin. Raise your hand. Do you want to unmute and have a chat with me, darling? What's your question?
Yeah, thank you for all the information. Very helpful. I am curious, those supplements that you mentioned and the foods and the herbs, like, is it possible to get some type of sheet or document with all of those things or recommendations?
I can send you my notes if you like.
Okay. I mean, I'm not sure if you already created something like that. I'm happy to pay for it. If you have, a document.
Oh, look, I'm more than happy to share. More than happy to share, my darling. No, that's no problem. So you just want a list of foods and supplements that I'd recommend?
Yeah, you said so many good things.
Yeah, I did.
That I was like, oh wait, what is all that? Because I will do that if I'll go home and like buy that stuff and start making those foods.
Yeah, no problem. Of course, I'll do a little cheat sheet for you ladies.
Oh,
I love cheat sheets.
Cheat sheets. I'll try to keep it simple because then that way, we all know someone that's gone through a loss. Like honestly, ladies, let's face it. We all know someone that's gone through it. We may have even experienced 1 or 2 ourselves. I know when I went through my loss, it was so horrific. I just felt like I got smacked and I got run over by a truck. I was just like, oh, Black Hawk down. And it was really difficult to lift myself up again. I had no idea of the impact that such an early pregnancy loss could create for me. It sent me into like almost a bit of a mild depression, and my anxiety came back, and it was like this old thing that I dealt with years ago, and all of a sudden I had anxiety and depression, and it really threw my hormones out. So I don't want to downplay it because most of us have gone through it once, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times or more. And or we know someone that's been through it. So even these little cheat sheets, you can pass them around and go, here, like, have you tried this? Have you tested for this? can we try some yoni steaming? You know, like what were some of the things that worked for your friends? And you start to share the knowledge. I mean, that's what these circles are about, coming together as women. So you can share this in your community. But yeah, more than
Yeah, and then I just have one more question about the Chinese herbs. Do you have any that we can buy through you that you recommend?
So if you're buying them through me, it's not, I'm not like a pharmacy. It's a part of working with me is, you know, you could have a consultation and then I dispense the herbs and send them to you. So I have my beautiful root and branch supplier in the US. They're in Portland, Oregon, and they send you the herbs, and they are amazing. So I am more than happy to consult you and prescribe you some herbs. It would be my pleasure, Erin.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I wasn't sure if you do like I'm almost thinking like from like what can I control kind of perspective, or so like my body, right? Like as a woman, as a mom, like what can I do to prepare my body as best as possible so that I don't have
These losses.
any of those traumatic experiences. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's how I work, Erin. So I work, you know, if you can work with me 12 weeks, but yeah, ideally that's how I tend to structure it. But, you know, I'm more than happy to do a consultation with you and we can see if it's a good fit and we can move from there. Not a problem.
Okay. Yeah, because I think you wrote me back that you're only working with people who are partners.
Ah,
So
okay.
I wasn't sure if
Yeah.
that was like, you know, like you can still work with like your body as a woman, like before
Yeah, you can. Absolutely. Yeah, you can
partnered up
prepare
and like going through the
absolutely. Yeah.
you know, whole
Yes.
additional factors.
I work with people to prepare, ideally work with couples, partly because I find when people come in as, you know, single females or what have you, and they're like, oh, I'm thinking I might have a donor. I'm thinking I might try to do this, but they're not really there. So that's why I tend to work specifically with couples. But it's not to say that I can't prepare you, because I do work with, you know, same-sex couples that, you know, might be in different parts of Australia or different parts of the world, and, you know, you have to work with them individually. So yes, I'm definitely open to working with you, Erin.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions, Jess? Darcy?
I think I'm okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
same. I think I'm
I guess
good.
I do have a question. I do have a question because you said with the supplements, like you should kind of recheck them every 3 months,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you know, less is better.
Less is best.
So with the supplements, because I know, you know, we have worked together and whatnot, but I don't think we ever went over like if I need to increase my supplements or remove
decrease.
some supplements.
Yeah. So what I'd recommend you do in the group, if you put your supplement list, because we all learn from this. So you go, this is what I'm taking, and I can do a review inside the group, and then everyone learns from what you're taking. And then I can revise that for you, and that way you get like a mini consultation, and then it's valuable learning for people inside the group. So by all means, we can do a supplement review there. Jess, not a problem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime.
Thank you.
Darcy, any more questions? You look like you're about to say something.
I think that pretty much, I mean, for the context of what you just spoke about, I think my question pretty much just, I think that's all I have. So.
Ladies, thank you for joining me. I am so happy to share this topic. It's a tender topic because you know, so many women go through this and may not even realize it. So thank you for opening your hearts, and I will see you again next week.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.